Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome everybody to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen once again, here to go over the week that was in professional wrestling. But before we do that, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. Follow me on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet as well. We have the YouTube at JuicySteen, where you can listen to this show each and every week, uploaded on the RSS feed. Rate and review if you could on there. Comment, subscribe, you know the deal. The Juice Box can also be found on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, via iTunes, Podbean with juicysteen.podbean.com, and on Spotify. And if you do listen on Spotify or through Apple and want to drop a review, rate it, that would be fantastic. So appreciate all the support there. Would also love to just report, very excited about the debut, the pilot episode of Main Event Maniacs, featuring Brian and Jay, the hosts of that program, now under the Juice Box umbrella. Really excited to have those guys on board, along with, the Triple Threat Theater guys, pretty much all of Wrestling Nation, Eisenberg, LeBar, pretty much everybody here involved with the Juice Box in some way is a part of the Juice Box family. So, welcome aboard, Brian and Jay. The pilot episode came and went, but it was just a little introductory episode and look into the fandom and who Brian and Jay are, to kind of, get involved with what these guys are going to be talking about going forward every now and again via Main Event Maniacs, that you can find right here in the Juice Box podcast feed. Next week, with the looming SummerSlam in Cleveland next Saturday, hopefully, if things all shape up how they should, we should have 3 solid episodes of the Juice Box out next week. You should get the SummerSlam prediction show. You should get Main Event Maniacs, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. The guys go over arguably the biggest main event in the history of professional wrestling to kick off Main Event Maniacs, and rightfully so. And if all things go according to plan, we all know how difficult it can be at times, Triple Threat Theater Volume 5 will air as well, which will also have a SummerSlam flair to it. So looking forward to putting that out there, and all 3 episodes out there next week here on the Juice Box, as the brand grows, but ever so small, ever so slightly we grow. But love putting out content for you guys. We're still actively working on the YouTube presentation portion of the Juice Box, and once that all gets settled in and tested and figured all out, we will provide some video content more often than not here on the Juice Box. So keep an eye out, quite literally, for that. So that out of the way as well, let's get into the week that was. Let's start with AEW. Blood and Guts. This was quite the show. You knew what you were going to get, and it did not disappoint for the most part. We started the show off with MJF, the new International champion, who debuts a new title belt. He drops the AEW International title in the trash, a la Medusa, in 1995 on WCW Nitro, whenever she dropped the WWF Women's World title in the trash. Now, of course, that was another company, and Monday Night War, a little bit more intense, but nevertheless, pretty cool sight there, a little homage. Well, we did see another homage later on in the night, and we'll definitely get to that. But MJF debuts a new design for the title, which pretty much has a red, white, and blue strap, an American flag in the middle, and is now dubbed the American Championship, which pretty solid heel move if you are going to potentially defend such a title at Wembley Stadium against Will Ospreay, which it does seem to be the case. Looks like we get Ospreay MJF 2 at All in Wembley Stadium, August 25th. We are just about a month away. So looking forward to that show. Last year's All In was, I thought, fantastic. I thought the opening match was great. I thought the middle of the card was really solid. Main event was also really fun. But we got a lot of interesting stuff potentially going into this All-In show. We'll talk about it towards the end of this recap of Blood and Guts, but the card is shaping up to be pretty damn good. So MJF, of course, also had his face as the stars and the American flag, which I'm sure ruffled some feathers, but again, it's a work. We had Chris Jericho and Minoru Suzuki one-on-one. Jericho getting bloodied by the chops of Suzuki. It was pretty entertaining, but Jericho gets the win. Big Bill and Brian Keith come out, attack Suzuki, kind of the numbers game. But Shibata comes out, makes the save. I would wager we get Shibata, Joe, Hook versus Big Bill, Brian Keith, and Chris Jericho sooner rather than later, potentially at All In. But with a month out, I'm not sure if they're ready to pull the trigger on that just yet. DMD, Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida. Britt Baker's first match in AEW in quite a long time, but looked good, looked solid. It's been a while, but I thought Britt looked great. I thought Shida looked great as well. Again, I've said this almost every single week. The depth of the women's rosters, really in WWE and AEW, are so vast, that, you know, a show could be dedicated to the women. For AEW, in AEW's case, an entire PLE could be discussed for WWE if they would like to, because of how many great women they have on that roster as well. Will it happen? Will either happen? I'm not sure. But proven right again with the depth of the rosters. After Britt Baker gets the submission victory with the lockjaw, CEO comes out and says, hey, you wanted CEO versus DMD at Wembley? No. So we're not getting that, at least as of now. But we will get something pretty solid soon, as the debuting Camille comes out, mops the floor with Britt Baker, a torture rack into a spinning sit-down powerbomb. The juice box was not a staple back in the fall of 2019, but one of the best things that got me through, the pandemic got me through living in another state and kind of just being on my own little island, for a year. One of the bright spots of that whole experience, honestly, was NWA Power. NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance had been around for so long. Of course, the ties with WCW, but the NWA banner, as it were, kind of just fell off, and the name fell off. But, with NWA TNA, kind of got picked back up again, but throughout the years, it just wasn't the same. However, with NWA Power, we had guys like Nick Aldis and Tim Storm, Ethan Page, a lot of solid wrestlers, that were involved on NWA Power. Some of, the wrestlers that were on there have all kind of, honestly, gotten back into, they're in the world of wrestling now. So, Eli Drake, LA Knight, I want to say Ethan Page was there. If I'm mistaken, maybe he wasn't there. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But Ricky Starks, Nick Aldis, like I said, Eddie Kingston, Camille, Cole Cabana, of course, was in there as well. But James Storm, like I said, LA Knight as Eli Drake, Thunder Rosa. This is honestly where I became aware of Ricky Starks, Thunder Rosa, of course, Aaron Stevens, which is formerly Damian Sandow. But I was really aware of some of these guys as they were becoming fixtures on NWA, So as this all happens, I'm being enthralled. These are new talent. I'm unaware of who they are, but now I'm excited about who they are. Camille was one of those talents that truly stunned me. Of course, now known, she's the former NWA World Women's Champion. She played in the Legends Football League, which is a women's semi-professional league for football. But she debuted as Nick Aldis's insurance policy to kind of take away the Brandy Rhodes of it all in regards to the 70th anniversary Nick Aldis-Cody Rhodes match back in 2018. But Camille, being a part of NWA, I've been a fan of hers since 2019, and really just been waiting for her to get a big shot somewhere, WWE, even if it's in NXT or in AEW. And lo and behold, here we go. She's the heater for CEO, giving very much the Shawn Michaels Diesel as bodyguard vibes, which is, not a bad thing whatsoever. And the torture rack into the sit-down, spin-around powerbomb looked insane. So, Camille as a heater, don't know if that'll eventually lead to, are we getting Britt Baker having to defeat Camille to get a shot at Monet? If that's the case, I only want that in the form of, Cody wanted to go against MJF, or was it MJF or no? Cody had to defeat Wardlow to get a match. I can't recall if it was who the hell it was for. Maybe it was to Jericho. What the hell do I know? AEW's been around for 5 years. I'm already lost with all the storylines. But Cody had to defeat Wardlow, and I feel like that's a similar type of angle we're moving with now. Although I don't know if I would have Camille take a loss so early, but it could be, dastardly, for as dastardly as a babyface could win. But Camille becoming a thing now in AEW, I'm looking forward to. So Shout out to Camille. Looking forward to her future in AEW. There was a Bryan Danielson interaction with Jeff Jarrett in the back. I don't know what that really is going to entail. Because, of course, we do have Swerve Strickland defending the AEW World title against Bryan Danielson at All In. All In also has Toni Storm defending against Mariah May. They had an interaction as well here on the Blood and Guts show. So that'll be fantastic. The rumor, of course, CEO versus DMD for the TBS title, which would be great. And as I said earlier, Ospreay versus MJF 2, potentially for the AEW American title. So that absolutely, those 4 matches are already pretty damn good. If we get a 6-man with the learning tree, then that's something. But we got a lot more talents to get involved. I mean, the Young Bucks aren't a part of anything yet. The Trios titles were up with the Patriarchy. I'm sure they would be in some sort of match. Darby Allin could be involved in something. FTR, that might be where the Young Bucks come in. There's a lot of talent that doesn't have anything yet. Hangman, although I have a feeling you might get to see Hangman featured very, very high on the card, but who he will face, I am not sure. Okada, of course, involved at some point. Jack Perry, a lot of different talent with not necessarily a spot just yet on the Blood or on the All In card, but I'm sure we will get more answers soon. Of course, Blood and Guts was insane. Of course, the heels, by way of beating up the authority figure of Christopher Daniels, got the coin toss win and had the advantage for the entire match before submit or surrender. Jack Perry was first, followed by Darby Allin, Nicholas Jackson, then Mark Briscoe, Matthew Jackson, then Anthony Bowens, Okada, Max Caster, and then the final 2 entrants, of course, Hangman, Adam Page, who didn't show up immediately. Swerve Strickland was last. As he came to the ring, Hangman hit him from behind. And I got a feeling Hangman could cost Swerve at All In. So a lot of cool things going on right now with AEW. In regards to storylines intertwining, I'll use the Larry David Seinfeld model here, where all the stories are going to dovetail potentially towards the end, where, Swerve gets screwed over by Hangman. So Danielson wins, and then Danielson might have to face Hangman, but Danielson also could have a guy like Jeff Jarrett, who lost and is to Bryan in the final and is talking about how, or not the final, but to get there. And like, how can he, they interact, because the motivational thing in the back that, happened on Dynamite. But a lot of the stories kind of syncing up could all lead to a solid All In. So let's get to Blood and Guts, the actual match. This is just nuts. Okada in a Blood and Guts match was just bizarre. Swerve got handcuffed to the cage from the outside, and Nicholas, the Young Bucks were like, look, Page, if you don't get in the ring, we're going to fire you. And he came in, but then Jarrett comes out, helps Swerve get out, and then a huge guitar shot on Brandon Cutler, which was really cool. There was a table spot where Jack Perry was on the table. Darby Allin climbs the cage for Blood and Guts, ascends to it, kind of monkey bars his way across, and then flat back bumps from it straight to Jack Perry through the table. We had an unreal spot where at some point Swerve was kind of in the middle of the ring, who, he had just used a staple gun, or was about to use a staple gun on Hangman, when the other case, it was a briefcase of sorts, was opened up, and it was just like a movie, there was a bunch of staple guns in there as if they were real guns, but they all were pointed at Swerve, and Swerve couldn't get out, and everybody took a shot, a staple to Swerve's body, which was insane. I loved it, though. Jack Perry got cuffed to the cage. This is where it gets crazy. Darby poured gasoline on him. A lot of interesting stuff here. It threatened to set him on fire, but the Young Bucks quit. And they really wanted it to be done. They didn't want any more damage to Jack Perry. And, the elephant in the room here, Mark Briscoe takes a straight-up headshot with the chair to Jack Perry. He lit Perry up with that. Apparently the chair was a little gimmicked. The sound sounded fantastic, so, it was tough to assume it was gimmicked, but wow, what a spot that was. This is the other homage I was referring to earlier. MJF throwing the international title in the trash can, a la Medusa, WCW 95. And then, of course, probably 95 or 96, Tommy Dreamer, winding up and cracking Raven, who was handcuffed to the cage, with a steel chair in the face. Tony Khan being a huge ECW fan throughout the years. He was at Chris Jericho's final ECW match. This was just an homage of homages, the chair shot. But, Tony loves that stuff, and I'm glad to see him kind of incorporate such into random bits of storytelling throughout AEW. But Team AEW gets the win. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens going forward. But Blood and Guts was absolutely insane. The rating was pretty solid as well. Good on them for that. They now have a month to get some solid TV built up for All In. So that's nice you get this blow off of a show, and now, boom, let's set some stories. Let's get things rolling. Let's get progress towards All In, because right after that, and 2 weeks later, you got All Out in Chicago. So we'll see. Also, Anthony Bowens used scissors, legit scissors, on Jack Perry, and that was disgusting, but it was fantastic at the same time. So, AEW Blood and Guts 2024 I thought was really entertaining. I was gripped by the end towards Blood and Guts. It was a wild, wild match. So AEW, like I said, they've got a couple of big shows coming up, but I'm just curious how they all tie it together, with All In being about a month away. And this is where they want to, set up your best stuff. You want to set up everything ready to roll. So let's tap in now to WWE. SummerSlam is merely a week and a day away. August 3rd, SummerSlam. Yours truly will be there. Should be a fun time. And we have a lot of singles matches. No tag matches thus far. 7 matches signed. All singles matches, which is pretty interesting. And none of these are on pre-shows. So maybe you get a tag title match from one of the brands. I doubt both. Maybe you get one on the pre-show. Maybe you get both on the pre-show. We had the problem that there were, not enough with the tag team division with just one set of titles. Little did we know that with 2 sets of titles, they were going to be defended even less, seemingly. Because right now it's DIY and who else are the other tag champs? Is it why can't I think of them right now? Let's see. So many championships, you just get lost. As we stall. But, so DIY are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And the World Tag Team Champions are still currently the Judgment Day. I feel like the Judgment Day are going to get some sort of match for the titles. But again, there's so much more of a story in regards to the rest of the members of Judgment Day. Priest, Rhea, Dom's involved. You'd think the tag titles are going to be on the line. But I don't know what challengers you have. Maybe, again, Awesome Truth again. Like, are we doing this? There's not that many tag teams to even go against each other. That's where I have some sort of an issue there, where I'm not really sure if, we talked about the women in both companies being, the depth there being amazing. The tag teams, not so much, and maybe that's where a team like the Motor City Machine Guns, who have been very, very heavily rumored to debut with WWE, could come into play. So I wouldn't hate that if it's true. If we were to see the Motor City Machine Guns involved in WWE in some way, that would be a nice way to kind of get the ball rolling, as it were, for tag team wrestling. So we shall see. But let's get into... So SmackDown happens last week, after the Juice Box airs, of course. And we do get confirmation. It will be Logan Paul defending the United States Championship against L.A. Knight. Yeah. For the United States title. So it's in Cleveland, Logan Paul's home city. He said he wants, a lot of people from Cleveland to be there. I don't know who's actually going to show up for him. So we'll see about that. But they finally have that match completely signed. It's going to happen, Cleveland, Ohio, in about a week. But on Raw, this is where some interesting stuff happened here. CM Punk returned, of course. He announces he is cleared, which was really cool. Finally saying he's cleared. And we're going to get the match. We will get the match. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. Drew wants the match. Punk wants the match. It's going to happen at SummerSlam. But Adam Pearce, who, has been quite the authority figure, I would say. Him and Aldis have been doing a great job. I feel like they've really stepped it up in regards to the general manager position. Like I mentioned earlier, Christopher Daniels, I think, has been a cool, same type of general manager-esque placement on a card for AEW, where former Ring of Honor talent, I think that's just a coincidence. Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis, former NWA champion, TNA star, but you get these former lower independent guys, but they had a high ceiling. They were great wrestlers all in their own right, but they have a lot of charisma, and I really like them as authority figures. I think they work well. So Adam Pearce drops this bombshell. Seth Freakin Rollins will, in fact, be the special guest referee for Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. It has been alluded to, and it has been discussed, it's been looked at, it's been theorized. I've been absolutely seeing it week by week by week that WWE seemingly with this McIntyre Punk story, with the addition of Rollins as well, it's very, very 1997-esque. I'm not going to say it's exactly the characters, but you got a guy who hates the other guy. Drew McIntyre hates CM Punk. Seth Rollins was pissed that Punk even came back to begin with, but they were potentially on a collision course as well. This injury happens with Punk at the Royal Rumble, from Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre was already obsessed with CM Punk after that injury. McIntyre defeats Seth Rollins, wins the world title at WrestleMania, gloats to Punk, who's commentating the match, a la Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, and vice versa. Punk costs McIntyre the match by beating him up, Damian Priest cashing in. All these things keep leading and turning and coming back around, and now you get McIntyre versus Punk. Rollins is the referee. It being SummerSlam and me talking about 1997, I cannot, look at it any other way than seeing, SummerSlam 97, where it was Undertaker defending the world title against Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels was the special guest referee. I believe if he wasn't, calling it down the middle, I don't think he would have been allowed to wrestle in the United States again. Bret Hart, if he lost, he couldn't wrestle in the United States again. But Shawn Michaels had to be a down the middle referee, to my knowledge. I can't really recall the specifics to that. If I can find that, I will absolutely report back. But the storylines there were so insane. Okay, I got right here. Let's see. So here's the thing. It was, if Bret didn't win the title at SummerSlam, he'd not wrestle on American soil again. Of course, there was Owen Hart had the match with Austin, and British Bulldog had a match. Certain things were happening to where you don't want to lose. So with this, as the referee of the main event, Michaels didn't like either guy. He didn't like Undertaker. He damn sure didn't like Bret Hart. But Bret Hart gets in the ring, and he's standing in front of Undertaker. He spits on Shawn Michaels. Michaels has to be impartial, but cracks Taker with the chair when Bret Hart, again, baits him by spitting on him, ducks the chair shot, and levels him. Once that happens, Michaels hesitant, but he has to. He counts the 1, the 2, and the 3. Pissed that he had to do it. Bret Hart leaves, World Heavyweight Champion. So now we get this, where Seth Rollins has to be a referee for a guy he hates and a guy who beat him for the world title. McIntyre hates Punk, but he beat Rollins for the world title, so he's got a little bit of a stake in the game as well. CM Punk, this is his first match in a WWE ring, outside of the Royal Rumble, since, late or early 2014. It honestly might be late 2013 as a singles match, because the Royal Rumble was his final match as a competitor there. So you have all these factors. You even have Drew McIntyre yesterday posting a photo. It got deleted after about an hour or so, of himself, Jack Perry. This is a real photo. Cry me a river. Genius. 1 million+ views. It got deleted, but it happened. So the trolling never stops with McIntyre. He hates CM Punk. I am here for Seth Rollins doing the Shawn Michaels referee gear, some sort of flashy, sequenced, bizarre stripe gimmick. I think it's going to be hilarious, and I'm really thinking that we might see the same thing where McIntyre pisses off Rollins. Rollins tries to take out McIntyre. Maybe he hits Punk, or maybe it's Punk baiting, Rollins. Rollins hits McIntyre. Punk gets the win. McIntyre is incensed, and we lead, forward to what happened. Taker, Michaels, bad blood, Hell in a Cell. Could we see that as well? Could we see Punk, McIntyre, Hell in a Cell? I think we could. So, and that's coming back. Bad Blood, October. A lot of stuff lining up like 1997, but I'm here for it. I've said quite a few times, I think 1997 is arguably the greatest year for professional wrestling across all companies. I mean, the Monday Night War was in full effect. ECW had their first pay-per-view. Sting transcended all stories. Steve Austin really became a huge star. Bret Hart being the biggest babyface in Canada only. The first Hell in a Cell. Austin Hart at WrestleMania 13. Just so many amazing things. Canadian Stampede, the show. Oh, man. Just a lot of great stuff in 97. So, a great time to be a fan if you're relating to both. Because, I think SummerSlam 2024 is going to hold up. Maybe, not across the board to a show from 97. But I think the stories are very deep and rooted. And we'll get to the exact card here in a moment. But I'm looking forward to it. Again, 7 singles matches at the moment. So Punk gets involved. Punk is cleared. They cannot touch, Punk or McIntyre cannot touch each other until SummerSlam, which, only a week away, but we'll see. Additionally, we had a Gunther promo doubling down on the street trash reference last week, but calling the fans in Green Bay street trash as well. Priest, we'll talk about it in the predictions next week, but I think it's almost a lock for Gunther to win the world title at SummerSlam, but I would not be stunned if Damian Priest somehow, some way retains the title and takes it to Bash in Berlin, but he'd have to, really screw Gunther over in a way where Gunther can get that title match back, but it seems so convoluted that I think the move is to just give Gunther the world title. So we'll see. But, maybe Priest gets involved. He wants a rematch. You get Priest, Gunther, Ilya in a triple threat. Vinci maybe gets involved. Kaiser could get involved. I'm not sure. But let's keep going. Damian Priest, though, he really did look like a babyface, which that is something I'm looking forward to as well. It seems as if Priest as a babyface is coming quicker than not, which is why I think he could retain at SummerSlam. But again, it has to come via Kaiser or something of that sort. So we'll really see. Again, the fact that I can't really come up with anything definitive, as it were, makes everything in pro wrestling that much better and more exciting, in my not-so-humble opinion. Braun Breaker defeated Ilya Dragunov via referee stoppage. Which, now, Braun Breaker gets the rematch. Taking on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam. Will Braun Breaker redeem himself after the loss at Money in the Bank, which, a lot of people out there, including myself, thought it was, much like Gunther at SummerSlam, a lock to happen. But it was actually the only prediction I got incorrect. You're incorrect. Which is pretty wild. So, Braun Breaker earns another title match here. I still think there's an outside shot. I'm mentioning singles matches. I'm still thinking there's an outside chance at Dragunov getting involved for a triple threat match. So we'll see if they actually go through with that. We had another video, this time Uncle Howdy with Abby the Witch of the Wyatt Six. And pretty creepy, pretty scary. I'm interested to see if we do get a Wyatt Six match, a Wyatt Six-man tag, as it were, to happen at SummerSlam. But I don't know if they're going to go through with that just yet either. We've also got the Final Testament versus Xavier Woods, Otis, and Akira Tozawa. Woods Cross using Woods' emotions against him. They get the win. I'm not sure what we're really going to do with the New Day. Will Woods turn? Will Kofi turn? Will Big E ever wrestle again? Are they just going to keep losing and never really do much anymore, as they're almost pretty much 10 years into this run? I don't know. And what are we doing with the Final Testament? Built up to lose their first match at WrestleMania against the Pride, and Bobby Lashley, the Street Profits. Bobby Lashley, there's another nugget there. He is no longer with WWE, which I thought was interesting, as well as MVP. I believe those guys are no longer with the company. Not to say they can't thrive somewhere else. I'm looking at you, TNA. Although, with the NXT TNA crossover, Joe Hendry being on NXT, losing the match at Slammiversary, Nick Nemeth, formerly Dolph Ziggler, winning the world title at Slammiversary, just NXT, TNA, going back and forth, all these things. Maybe Bobby Lashley wouldn't do that, and he could go to AEW, but we shall see about that as well. Gable and the Creed brothers offer a one-time opportunity to have the Alpha Academy join in, but they don't do it, and we get the Wyatt Six hitting the Sister Abigail, Uncle Howdy did, onto Chad Gable, which was a thunderous pop. Fantastic to see that. A move so many times done by Bray Wyatt, effectively done here by Uncle Howdy. Gorgeous move with the fireflies out. It was an amazing visual, and the crowd popped huge, like I said. So I really think that they have something. If they can capture this aura, as the kids say, the energy of the Wyatt Six, and place it into a good spot. Even if Gable and the Creeds do a lot of good, anytime that there's a shot for them to bully somebody, maybe the Wyatt Six will shut them the hell up. Sheamus had a match. Actually, was it a match? Actually, no. It was going to be a match between Pete Dunne and Bronson Reed, but Sheamus came out, and nothing really happened. I'm not sure. Again, we kind of get these Raw matches as the weekend progresses into Monday. Maybe you'll get a triple threat. Maybe we could get something like that at SummerSlam. I don't know. But Sheamus, Pete Dunne is something, especially with the history there with Butch. But good Lord. We then get Rhea Ripley, Dom, and Liv Morgan in a split screen. Dom says he's daddy no more. After Liv Morgan says that gorgeous men like Dominic go for girls who look like, and she spun around in her Daisy Dukes. You can see the visual on Twitter. I need not go further. Stunning. But, yeah, so seemingly, Rhea Ripley and Dom Mysterio are back in the good graces of one another. However, you know very well that there is a very good chance that at SummerSlam, assuming the match, is what it is, which would be Rhea and Liv. Well, I mean, it's happening. But assuming what type of match that really is going to be, without it being Dom as the special guest referee, which would have been fantastic. I mean, him having to kind of figure out who am I going to, count for? Who do I want to win? I think Dom is absolutely going to be involved in some way. Whether he comes out with Rhea and costs her the title, costs her the match, even if she's not champion. That could be something. But it's going to be drama intensified. Rhea Ripley's already a babyface. Everybody already hates Dom. And even though Liv Morgan kind of helped this Dom thing get to where it is, I think Dom is going to prove that he really does want to be with Liv, turn on Rhea. The Judgment Day crumbles. Maybe we get that tag title match. Priest could lose the world title. He could be a babyface. And we could kind of move forth without the Judgment Day, leaving the Bloodline still relevant across WWE as the premier storyline involving a faction in the company. Because, Cody Rhodes is defending the undisputed WWE title against Solo Sikoa. You've got to think other members of the Bloodline will be there, but no Jey Uso on the card. Maybe you get a returning Jimmy Uso, and of course we're all thinking maybe we get the return of one Roman Reigns. So a lot going on over there as well. But Liv Morgan, crying on the way out. It was great. Great moment. Rhea Ripley licking Dom Dom's face. Just a fascinating, cinematic, drama-filled soap opera, truthfully, segment. So, big fan of what they're doing there. I like how it's kind of turned to where Dom has been a heel this whole time. And just when it looks like you're kind of rooting for him because Liv got him and he doesn't want to be involved with that, he kind of turns it back. Oh, I'll be with Rhea. And we all know what is likely to happen at SummerSlam. So, we also had Zelina Vega defeating Zoe Stark. Don't know if we're going to get the six-way that we thought, but Deville, Stark, and Baszler confronted Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, trying to maybe, preposition them for a women's tag title match, and that could happen at SummerSlam as well. Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day. And Zayn and Uso get the win, which was pretty cool. But as the show went off the air, Braun Breaker absolutely unhinged. Leaves Zayn laying with a spear, which is a nice way to close out the show. The tag champ's not winning, and even though the title wasn't on the line, it's not the worst thing in the world. They'll recover. But like I said way early in the show, I think it's imperative that we get these tag titles. Both sets on the show, maybe on the pre-show, maybe it's a long pre-show, but you got to get them all out there, you'd think. So we'll see. But before we close out the show with a little Ask Juice, let's cover the SummerSlam card as it stands here, Friday, July 26th. We've got Damian Priest versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. Bayley defends the WWE Women's title against Nia Jax. Liv Morgan defends the Women's World title against Rhea Bloody Ripley. We also get Cody Rhodes defending the undisputed WWE title against Solo Sikoa. Sami Zayn defends the Intercontinental title against Braun Breaker. Logan Paul defends the United States title against L.A. Knight. And CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Freakin Rollins as the special guest referee. I'm telling you, that is going to have some heat to it for sure. So let's get into Ask Juice briefly here. Wrestling Nation chiming in. Shout out to you guys. Now that Darby and Jack Perry seemingly are headed for a feud, which of any of the other three pillars, not including MJF, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, or Jack Perry, will ever hold the world title? I think Sammy could. I think it's very possible that Jack Perry, under this new elite scapegoat thing, could do it. But I have a feeling Darby Allin could get a shot one day. And I've felt that, Darby Allin gets a world title shot. He wins the world title. He looks up, look, with no involvement whatsoever of staying through this entire thing. He's retired, what have you. Darby Allin wins the match, wins the world title, looks up to the rafters and sees Sting in the rafters looking down. I think that would be an incredible surprise and visual. And I really do. I think Darby Allin can win the world title. Not yet, but I definitely think it could happen. Ask Juice, is it safe to say that the flywheel of the Juice Box brand is becoming a multifaceted umbrella with the expansion of a new show. Sure. I think it's cool that, well, first of all, the Juice Box for the fans by a fan, the initial statement of the Juice Box, I was just a lowly random co-host for the final 3 years of Chairshot Reality. But I really, always loved talking wrestling. I wanted to continue that journey. So I figured that to kind of keep that going, I could do the Juice Box. And as the platform kind of kept growing a little by little, I kept thinking, I'm like, man, it's fun talking, it's to an extent by myself about wrestling each week, and it's great. But I love talking to everybody else. I love having Eisenberg, LeBar coming in every now and again, kind of getting that chair shot fever back. We had Ghoulish on for the Sting retrospective. I love doing Triple Threat Theater. Josh, Donnie, we, I think, are going to do a little bit more Triple Threat Theater with a couple of other guys from Wrestling Nation, but we're in the early stages of that, so no more details there. The SIP series, getting some interview segments out there, and now with Main Event Maniacs underneath the Juice Box umbrella. I just really enjoy having, a lot of my friends and colleagues in the pro wrestling industry, if you really want to call it that. It's not like I'm a wrestler, but you're in the industry, you're in the IWC, whatever. You're going to shows, you're getting interviews with people, you're talking. I love expanding that and having as many people, if they want to contribute, you're more than welcome aboard. Of course, it's not like I'm just going to, you can't just post anything and say, oh, it's under the Juice Box. Like, people have asked if they've really wanted to be on, and they've been gracious and asking, and we've collaborated, and it's it's a family effort, it's a collaboration. The conglomeration, if you will, Mark Briscoe. But it's just fun. It's truly a lot of fun to wrangle as many of my colleagues, close friends that love talking wrestling, and discuss it on this platform to grow the platform as a whole. It's about the show. It's about the fans. It's about my friends. So shout out to all you guys. Juicebox will grow week by week. Ask Juice, if the TNA WWE crossover were to happen during TNA's prime run in the early 2000s, what are some of the dream matches you wish you could have seen and why? I'll drop a couple. The first thing I can think of would be AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels circa 2005. Give me Unbreakable 2005 AJ Styles from the triple threat between him, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels versus WrestleMania 21 Shawn Michaels, who went against Kurt Angle. At the same time, give me 2005 Kurt Angle versus 2005 AJ Styles. But when Kurt Angle was in WWE 06, 07, at that time, I would have loved to seen him go against, in WWE. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a Kurt Angle CM Punk type thing. I thought that would have been a unique thing to do. But yeah, there's a lot of, I really have to sit down because I'm really doing this without the roster in front of me, but just going based off that. I mean, you could have done a lot of X Division matches. Let's be real here. Matt Presto, he knows this. I would have loved to have seen Samoa Joe versus Umaga. The Battle of the Samoans. I booked that match in my Wrestling Figure Federation back in 07. That could have happened. It didn't, but it could have, and that would have been something that I think that could have been tapped into as a fun match. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. Give me 2004 Triple H versus 2006 King of the Mountain Jeff Jarrett. Just top guys, top heels. I love that. There's a lot of different things you could have done there that I would have been fascinated to see if that crossover happened back then. But, quote, who is TNA way back when? And now look, TNA, NXT, really WWE working with TNA. It's an incredible thing to see. I'm happy for both. What is the end game for the Dom, Liv, Rhea angle? Will Dom end up with Liv to solidify Rhea's face turn? In a short answer, yes. Or is it going to get Liv over as a face as the broken-hearted girl? No. I think maybe eventually, because ultimately Dom is the biggest heel that WWE has. And even though this is a very quiet, tiny, minute blip of sympathy for Dom. I think that once we get to SummerSlam and he ultimately turns on Rhea, goes with Liv, that Liv will also get shoved to the side at some point, and it'll be Dom being the POS that we all hate anyway. So, yes, and Liv will eventually be the broken-hearted girl, but we'll get there. And this is the last one I'll do here. Josh Cross, because why wouldn't he ask questions as insane as this? Who has the best gun-related nickname or reference in wrestling? We already did Motor City Machine Guns, Bret the Hitman Hart, Machine Gun Carl Anderson, Bullet Bob Armstrong, the Bullet Club. Are there any other? The Straight Shooter, the Shooter. I don't know if there either isn't something like that, because I think Dean Malenko was the Man of 1,000 Holds, but there was someone that was like, or maybe the Shooter, Dean Malenko. Who am I thinking of? Let's see here. I'm gonna dead air here. Look up. Let's see. Or maybe I was correct. Yeah, the Shooter, Dean Malenko. So I was correct there. I was not really 1,000% sure, but I felt like I had it. But as a WCW guy, I might have been the only guy that would have known anything like that. Yeah, the Bullet Club, Bullet Bob. Not too many other gun-related. Billy Gunn, the Smoking Guns, the Gun Club. Pretty much anything if your last name's Gunn. But I think the Smoking Guns were pretty cool. They had a foam hat as their merch stand item, which I always thought was pretty cool as a tag team in early '90s WWF. Actually, mid '90s WWF rather. But Bullet Club, I think, is probably the best. Although the Hitman, Bret Hart, is pretty damn cool. Although I think he may have taken that from Thomas Hitman Hearns, the boxer. But that's neither here nor there. That is Ask Juice for this week. That is the Juice Box for this week. As I said, next week we've got a couple episodes at least for you guys. We've got the SummerSlam predictions show. We will have the first true episode, second overall episode of Main Event Maniacs with Brian and Jay as they discuss March 29th, 1987, Pontiac Silverdome 90, 3,173 alleged fans in attendance for Andre the Giant taking on the world champion Hulk Hogan in arguably the biggest main event in the history of professional wrestling. So looking forward to having that episode air next week as well. And if everything goes to plan, we will also get Triple Threat Theater Volume 5, which has a SummerSlam feel to it. So that will be also pretty damn cool to have a couple episodes. For WrestleMania, we had a SIP series, we had a Triple Threat Theater, and we had Night 1 and Night 2 predictions for WrestleMania. But, of course, that was WrestleMania. You're going to have a lot of episodes. SummerSlam, maybe 2, or at least 2, maybe 3. But these bigger shows, I like putting out a little bit more content, at least as we get forth with the pod. So hopefully you guys enjoy all that content next week. As always, check me out on Twitter. Follow me at Juicy Steen. Follow me on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. You can also subscribe to the Juice Box on YouTube at Juicy Steen. You can also listen to the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and of course on Spotify, where if you listen to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts via iTunes, you can please leave a rating and review. It would really help the show going forward. 5 stars, 5 straws. We look at it all the same here in the Juice Box. But for all that, I'm Juice Springsteen. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend as we got SummerSlam week next week right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.